So I'm back once again with yet another Nikon rangefinder. This is one you might have seen before in some of my videos. This is a Nikon S. And I picked this up not too long ago at a thrift store. And I had the Nikon S, and it had the original leather case with it, which I still have over in the corner. Had a neat little card that had some like aperture information. It actually came with this 50mm f1.4 lens that's currently on my SP. I put this old 50 f2 on here. It is chrome, and I think it just kind of fits the style of the camera. And I found it, and when I found it, it was very cheap. I think I paid less than $40 for it. But I wanted to examine it before I bought it, and of course when I examined it, I realized the shutter was just shot. It was all messed up. It had all these sort of like, this shutter right here looked fine, but this other opposite side shutter was all messed up. It was wrinkled, it had holes in it, it was warped, it looked like it had been melted almost. It was very disappointing. I guess I've heard that theoretically, if you leave a shutter out and the lens is wide open and kind of exposed to sunlight, it can sort of focus sunlight inwards like a parabola, and it can damage some of these older fabric shutters. I didn't really believe that until I saw this camera. I've since had it repaired, and that's actually what I'm here to talk about, is the repair process of this camera. So this is a Nikon S, and I'm going to talk about prices that are probably roughly 2020, early 21 congruent prices. And looking on eBay, which I know is maybe not the most accurate source, but it's a place you can always find some Nikon cameras, I would say a Nikon S with a 50mm f1.4 lens is not super common, but not all that rare, and they usually run for somewhere in the range of $400 or $500, sometimes less. The ones being cheaper often broken or missing the lens or something to that effect. So I think all in all, even the broken camera for like $40 with a lens was pretty good. The lens was in pretty good shape. It did have a little bit of haze in it. I was able to open it up and clean it out, and it's been fine ever since. The camera, of course, was beyond my repair abilities, so I sat around with it for a while and was thinking of selling it, thinking, you know, I could probably kit it with this lens, this kind of extra 50mm f2 I have that's not in the best condition. I could probably sell it off for $100 or more. You know, I basically pay $40 for this 51.4, which is great, and then I could sell this for about $100 and make a little bit of money and get a free lens out of it. And I thought, you know what, that's not too bad. But then I started looking into it, and I was looking to see if anybody could repair it. I looked around on the internet, I asked on some forums, and I was given a few hints. I contacted about 8 places. Only 3 of them really responded saying they could fix it. One guy said he would fix it, but he needed me to source a replacement shutter, which I could have potentially done, but I ended up not doing that because it just seemed like it was kind of a hassle. I contacted Kanto Camera in Japan. They said it was going to be $600 plus shipping and handling. Considering the camera is not worth that much in the best case scenario, I decided that wasn't worth it. And then I contacted what is it called? Portland Camera Services, I believe. And they said they would do it for $300 plus shipping and handling. So I sent it to them. They did the repair. I think they did a pretty good job. They ended up stripping off the original Moroccan leather for some reason and replacing it with more modern vulcanite, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is a pretty little, picky little thing. They fixed the shutter. It seems to be in good shape. It fires. There is a tiny bit of slack when it sits loose like that. You can probably see there's just a tiny bit of slack in the shutter, but when you turn it, it does tighten. I've tried to test the shutter speeds using the CRT method, which is probably not the most accurate, and they seem to be pretty accurate. Again, it's hard to tell on these older cameras because instead of shooting at like 250th of a second, they shoot at 200th of a second. Instead of 125th of a second, they're 100th of a second. Then you have 60, 40, 30, 20. It's not really all that common compared to modern cameras. This is very common on old Leicas, I know, but it's kind of a strange shutter speed set to work with. But regardless, I sent the camera in, I got it fixed, I paid the money. I ended up having to pay a little bit extra for the vulcanite replacement, which was I think about $45 extra, so that really pushed up my repair cost to about $400, considering the shipping and handling and everything, which I wasn't too crazy about. I found that a bit weird because I've heard people online say that you don't even really need to take off the vulcanite or the leather to repair this camera. They did a pretty good job of reapplying it. I would have much preferred the original Moroccan leather, which I'm pretty sure this is more modern vulcanite, which is an artificial sort of, I guess it's a petroleum-based substance. It's not quite a plastic, but it's pretty close to it. I got the camera back and I was looking at it, and I noticed the bottom plate seemed to be kind of dented up. There were these strange scratches all over the little lugs right here, and there's a big dent on one side that had been hammered out. And then I remembered something. The Nikons have a serial number on top and a matching serial number inside. And the serial numbers no longer matched. So I contacted them and pointed this out, and apparently they had confused my camera back with another camera back from another Nikon S that was in service at the time. I found that kind of odd. You wouldn't think there would be too many people getting Nikon S's service, but then again, they were one of only about 3 places in the world, as far as I can tell, that were willing to service the camera. So maybe it's not that much of a coincidence. But I did ask them about this. They sent back the original back. I sent back the wrong back. They gave me a pretty substantial discount, which made it a little bit more worth it, I feel. I'm still a bit curious as to why they took off the leather and replaced it with vulcanite. I don't think that was really necessary, but then again, I'm not a repair expert, so I'm not going to pick away at that too much. So at the end of the day, I ended up spending quite a bit of money to get this camera repaired. I spent about 40 bucks on the camera, and at the end of the day, I think I spent about $275 on the repair after the rebate. So I'm in the hole a little over $300 on this camera, which isn't too bad, because at that point I could sell it and make a profit. But that's one of the things I really want to discuss in this video is it worth it to have these cameras repaired? And the answer is I really don't know. I think it's almost all personal opinion. If you inherit an old Nikon S like this, or especially if you inherit a Nikon 1 or a Nikon M, and maybe it came from like your dead grandmother or something, you're probably going to want to spend the money and get it repaired so it works and you can kind of keep it in the family, have a bit of a family heirloom, for lack of a better term. I don't know if a camera is really a great heirloom, especially a film camera, considering there's a good chance they won't make film in 20 years, the way things are going now. But I found it kind of, you know, if that was the case, if I had had this camera and I'd inherited it, I definitely would have gotten it fixed. Some people might not do that. I think a lot of people would. I found this, it's such a good price. I thought it was worth it to get it fixed. Because remember, I did shop around and get prices. I did not go with Conto cameras specifically because their price was so high. I would have been in the hole on this camera about $200 any way you look at it. And I just don't think that was worth it. I think it was worth it to go with Portland Camera Services. Wasn't 100% satisfied with the job they did, but it wasn't terrible. They did correct the big mistake they made of sending the wrong back, which is still kind of bizarre to me, but I'm glad they were able to correct that. Is it worth it to get these cameras repaired? I don't know. Like I said, if it's something you inherited and it has some sort of, what do you call that? Like a sentimental value, it's probably worth it. If it's a camera you find for next to nothing and you can get it repaired at a reasonable price, it's probably worth it. But I would say if that's what you're planning on doing, I wouldn't try to turn around and immediately sell it. Because when you do that, you're probably going to realize that at the end of the day, you really did not make much of a profit. Because you're probably going to sell a camera like this on eBay, and there's going to be all those eBay fees and shipping and everything. And you're not really going to make much of a profit. There's a good chance you'll lose money. It's not going to be a whole lot of money, but it's probably going to be a small loss or a very small profit that was not worth the time and effort. I would suggest if you're going to get one of these cameras repaired, you do it so you can use it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to use it forever, but I would definitely suggest repairing it and using it for a while, putting a few rolls of film through it, testing out a few different lenses on it. Keep it around for a year or two so you can at least, you know, kind of justify it in your head and say, oh, well, I used it for a year or two. Now I can sell this one and I can upgrade to a better one. Let's be honest, that's generally the math there doesn't really add up either, but you do at least have that sort of logic, so in your head you can kind of internally justify it. And I think there is a little bit more value to be had in actually using it and trading up, so to speak, to a better camera. If you find one of these cameras on eBay and they're like $100, $200 and you buy it knowing it's broken and trying to get it repaired, you're never going to recover from it. I'll be honest. I don't think there's any way you can ever recover from that type of purchase because you're spending, you know, around let's even say $150 on a broken camera, probably $25 shipping and handling. You're in the whole $175. You got to ship this up. You got to pay about another $20 to ship this somewhere to get it fixed. Then you're probably paying at least $300 to get it fixed, probably more from what I've seen, probably more in the range of $400, considering that most places are going to want you to provide some sort of shutter replacement. There might be some sort of vulcanite replacement. Who knows what other hidden costs could be in there. I would say just be kind of careful and don't buy one of these cameras thinking, oh, I'll just get it repaired and sell it for a big profit, because that is probably not going to happen. If you want to buy it, repair it, and use it, that's great. That's kind of why I did it. One of the reasons I actually got this camera repaired, I was kind of on the fence about it, was because I realized there were so few places around willing to do the repairs. If I waited another 5 years, there would probably only be one place that would do the repairs, and they were probably going to charge an absolute fortune. So I figured I'll do it now, and I'll get the repair, and you know, I'll hopefully save a little bit of money in the long run. I'll use the camera for a while. I might part with this camera and sell it down the road. I don't know yet. I haven't even put a roll of film through it. I'd like to use it and put a couple of rolls of film through it before I really make any sort of decisions on what I'm going to do with it in the long term. But for now, I got it repaired. I can't really say I regret getting it repaired, even though it was kind of an ordeal and it did cost some money. But all in all, on this camera, like I said, it's about, what did I say? Probably about $330 in the hole. So I could turn around and sell this camera for $400 and I'd probably make a profit. I could maybe put it with the 1.4 lens and sell the whole kit as I bought it for about $500 and I'd make a bit of a profit. But that's not really my goal right now. My goal is to kind of use these cameras to kind of collect and curate them to a certain extent, and most of all use them and understand them. I think these are really good cameras that are very underappreciated. Because even though the Nikon S might be kind of rudimentary compared to the later models, it's got this weird shutter speeds and this strange double shutter mechanism. It's got the old film advance knob that takes a couple of turns and the film rewind knob. It's not the most convenient stuff in the world, but it will use all the Nikon lenses. You can put any of the Nikon lenses on here. The viewfinder is really only honed for a 50mm lens, but you know, I like shooting with a 28. I could put the 28 on here with an external viewfinder. Nice looking little camera, does quite a bit. You can just have the 50 with a light meter. The V201X fits on there. It kind of touches against the rewind knob, but it doesn't seem to bend it or warp it or put any pressure on it. So that is a nice feature you can use. It does not, the Sekonic L208 does not fit on here. It has a little bar and it just rams into this rewind knob and does not fit on this camera. So that's something to note if you're thinking of buying a Nikon S and you already have a Sekonic L208. Not going to fit on here. Just something strange to note. I don't know about other light meters. It looks like a lot of meters would fit on here, but this is the only one I really have right now to show you what it looks like. So it looks pretty handsome. I like the look of it. So I've ranted on for a while about the Nikon S and Nikon repairs. So hopefully that is enough right there that someone will be kind of appreciative of me putting this video up and might be able to make a decision on whether or not they want to have an older camera repaired. Ultimately, it's your choice, and I would say just keep the cost in mind and keep an end goal in mind. I think that's a big thing to keep in mind. Don't just try to repair these cameras and think you're going to turn around and sell it and make a quick buck. That is almost certainly not going to happen. So keep that in mind when you're buying these cameras and considering getting them serviced or repaired. And I think I'm going to call it a day. No photos from this one yet, so I don't have a little montage at the end, but stay tuned. I'll be back with some photos shot on this camera.